All right, cool. Well, welcome to the first episode of the Shotgun Formation podcast.
Woo!
I'm your host, Jared Green, with my co-host right down there, Phil Chinnery, right over there, Gower. You guys ready to get this thing going?
Show us how, Brock. Show us
Sure am.
how.
Let's do it,
Shotgun
baby.
Formation 101 right here.
Hopefully this is an epic fail on his part.
Hey,
That was actually pretty impressive.
good for an old man.
Cue
What,
the-
28 now?
That's that's like some podcasts have intro music. We've got just Shotgun and Beer by Brock Gower. So
Might have been my cleanest shotgun.
There was no drippage. That was really impressive.
never shotgun sitting down. Feel good.
that was actually pretty impressive. Like, I mean, I feel like the belly might get a little fuller by sitting down, but
My parents would be proud.
what about Audrey? Yes. Hey, I love it. I love it. Well, I guess we should start out. This is the first podcast, like kind of giving you guys an intro, those listeners out there, millions of you, about what we're doing. So we're just three avid Big Ten college football fans.
Huge.
Huge. We got a little bit of Michigan love, a little bit of Purdue love, a little bit of IU love. And so, yeah, we want to bring you kind of a weekly breakdown and kind of forecast on, hey, these are the Big Ten games that are happening. We'll give you our predictions. We probably won't get too in depth with it, but we want to at least give kind of our feel and thoughts on what's happening throughout the season each week. And we're not going to forget about the national headlines. Obviously, the SEC, it just means more down there. So
much
we'll
more.
touch,
Yeah.
we'll touch on, I guess, a couple games there, the Pac-12 after dark, stuff like that, and some Notre Dame sprinkle, some group of five stuff. So that's kind of our snapshot for the season, and we'll see how this thing goes. So,
And you know what? Most importantly, just want to have a little fun.
Have some fun with the boys. Talk a little shop. That's all we're doing.
we're bringing you raw content. That is what we're aiming to do. Hopefully give you a couple laughs along the way. We'll be drinking plenty of beer. And without further ado, I guess we've got kind of the week 0 football games starting up, this week. But before we get into that, I know we're kind of getting a little bit late to the game. Kind of just want to go over, the Big Ten conference championship picks, the rest of the country, the Power 5 will focus on, and then maybe kind of the group of 5 schools. So, Brock, do you want to kick us off with kind of your picks for, each of the Power 5 conference champions who you're looking at to win that? And then, we'll go to Phil, and then we'll circle back to me, and we'll kind of go from there. So
This is a lot of pressure.
Yeah, Brock, kick us off.
With all my research.
we know Purdue steps up to the plate, right?
At least for the Big Ten West. Anyways, should I start with the Big Ten since that's our calling here?
I mean, go for it.
I mean, I will do. I'll ride with my boys. Big Ten West.
This guy.
No, just the West. Obviously, I think they're going to play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. Purdue really being the only team that has Ohio State's number in the past 15 years, has the most wins of anybody in the Big Ten against Ohio State.
That's a good fact.
Obviously, I'm gonna roll with the Buckeyes though. They got all the money. They got biggest fan base, best players. Should I go next? ACC. It's really just Clemson, ride or die.
They're pretty good.
Pretty good.
All right.
Going to the Big 12 with what they have left. Oklahoma's probably going to be running the show here for the next 3 years. Is it another 3 years or 4?
Well, they're going to at least 2025 is when they'll transition, but I think there's going to be some talk going on. They're going to negotiate. They're going to get there earlier than that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they negotiate somehow next season and Texas, Oklahoma are there. So who knows?
What else we got? I mean, I'm going to touch on the MAC just because the big ball.
Let's save our group 5 stuff.
By the way,
Who you got in the SEC?
it is hot as shit down here. My forehead.
This guy's got his ace.
He's just so nervous. He's so
I am nervous. I am leading off.
Got shotguns one beer. He's losing it.
I go with USC for the Pac-12. I think they're gonna ride with. What is it? Keaton Slovis. Quarterback.
Keaton Slovis.
He's a pretty big time NFL looking quarterback. Who else we got?
Forget about the SEC, man.
SEC is a thing that exists. Yeah.
SEC. Who would have known? I'm going to Bama. It's easy.
Phil?
Doesn't matter who's quarterback. Saban's got him.
Just doesn't matter. It
I was gonna
doesn't
say,
matter at all.
I think
Bryce Young, right? He's the starter this year for Alabama.
Yeah. Brock you pretty much went chalk there, except for USC, which
With old chalk.
yeah, I think I would say you went pretty much chalk of what the
Most of the favorites.
I mean,
but I mean that's like the game, right? Because like this year, I feel it's kind of like a down year. Like so much talent went into the draft this past season. There's just not a ton of returning guys that are like making huge impacts. Like it's pretty open to me.
That's what's crazy about college football. Like, where are we at in college football? Because, like you said, it is so open. Like, there's a lot of parity this year because there's a lot of unknowns. Like Ohio State's quarterback situation, Alabama's quarterback situation. Obviously, we know like DJ Uiagalelei is going to be a stud. Like we saw what he can do last year when Lawrence was out those few games, but Brock still went pretty much like chalk there because that's the game of college football. Like you've got your top 4 or 5, and it is what it is. Like
I'd also argue though, as far as the returning goes, just with COVID last year, everybody getting granted that extra year.
Right. That plus the free transfer portal. Ooh, it's crazy out there. People going everywhere.
Free agency.
Wild.
Well, Phil, what do you think?
All right. So I don't want to be boring and like just match Brock here because a lot of that like I do agree with, but we'll go this way with it. Or we're going to do the Big Ten more in depth later, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll just straight up say, you know what? I'll make you happy. Let's go Indiana, baby. Winning the Big Ten.
Lee Corso, that's a bad pick.
Hey, Lee Corso was our coach for a while there, Brock. You better watch it.
Better watch yourself. So we got Indiana out of Big Ten. Big 12. I mean, it's got to be Oklahoma, right? Just because I feel like that whole conference is just trash. And Rattler's like legit prospects. So we'll go Oklahoma there. Over in the Pac, I'm going to ride with the Oregon Ducks. We'll go Ducksies over there. ACC, and this will tie in later with something else we're going to cover. I'm going to take the North Carolina Tar Heels, baby. Let's go.
I think we Heisman pick
Sam Howell is a stud.
The Heisman. They were talking about Heisman a little bit. And then SEC, give me the Georgia Bulldogs.
I like
that
that
happen.
pick.
They're finally going to get over the hump for the first time ever, or in the past 30, 40 years, whatever it is. Georgia, baby.
I like that pick. I'll circle back that because Georgia is my pick actually to win the SEC as well. I mean, they've been knocking on the door for what now? Kirby Smart, this is his 6th year. They've been knocking on the door, and I think you ask Georgia fans though, they've come short. They've come up short. But you saw the last, I don't know, I think JT Daniels started the last 4 or 5 games for them last year, and that offense, the passing game, really took the next step. That's what they've been missing. And I just think with a lot of look, it's a question mark. Alabama's going to do Alabama things, like we get it. But I think they go to A&M this year, which could be a tricky game for them. Just the East is down this year. So Georgia has, I would say, not a cakewalk. The SEC is tough. But I would expect Florida not to be what Florida was last year. I mean, Tennessee's down, Missouri, like all these schools are down. So I think it's just as long as Georgia doesn't mess up, more than once.
Vanderbilt might stand in their way.
Vanderbilt is dangerous.
Tell you what, Nashville's a party city now. So, I mean, I'll be interested. Like Georgia's going to get a test. They square off with Clemson week 1. So like we're going to be able to see
decent matchup.
And it's neutral site. I think it's in Charlotte. I mean, so I'm sure not that Georgia won't travel well, but Clemson will probably be a little bit more, well versed there. But we're going to be able to see what they're made of. But I'm taking Georgia as well. For the Big Ten, I got to go with Ohio State. I would love to see my Hoosiers make it. I'm not saying they can't give them a run for the money. They play Ohio State every single year they play them well. They play them hard. We got a lot of returning guys at IU, but
they play hard.
4 straight Big Ten championships for the Buckeyes. Like,
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, some teams just aren't cut out to beat Ohio State,
Here's what it is. And I can't go as far as I thinking Purdue getting to the Big Ten championship against them. I'm going to have to probably roll with Wisconsin. I mean, Iowa maybe, but I'm not very big on Iowa this year. I mean, Wisconsin, I think Graham Mertz is good. So
Graham Mertz is stud.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think realistically, if anybody's going to knock Ohio State off, it's probably them, unless, look, Penn State, I'm pretty high on Michigan too. I think, man, I tell you what, we'll get into this later. we'll break down the Big Ten a little bit later, but I don't think anybody's going to knock Ohio State off this year. Rolling with Clemson, the ACC, got to. And then I'm going to go with USC as well. Out west, it was a toss up for me between Oregon and USC. A little too much question mark for me on the quarterback side for Oregon. So Keaton Slovis is a stud. I'm gonna roll with him. Some folks like Arizona State, but there's a lot of turmoil that's going on out there. I think it's gonna draw a young team. Some coaches have been fired recently, so I'm gonna go with USC. And then, like you said, Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma is just too good for that conference. I think they're gonna run it. I wouldn't be surprised. Perfect season going into the playoffs. So
Ellinger's out. Who's Texas quarterback even?
Who knows? We probably should know that. We're a college football
Big Ten podcast. It's not a national podcast.
Or Big Ten. Yeah.
We'll come back next week for that answer on Texas quarterback. But yeah, I mean, so I want to talk about the group of five teams for a little bit though. Brock, you kind of sprinkled in there. You're taking Ball State and the MAC, looking for a repeat. I mean, realistically, I think the only team that could compete with them this year is Toledo. I mean, if you go by the sports books, they like Toledo anyways over Ball State, and I think that's crazy. I mean, Ball State returns like pretty much everybody. I know Jason Candle on Toledo's gonna have their best team in a while, but they got to go to Schumann Stadium, I think like week 7, and that's house is gonna be rocking with like 12,000 strong. So I might try to make it up to that game. I don't know what Austin Peay's schedule is off the top of my head, but might get up there for a little MACtion, Ball State versus Toledo. But yeah, I like Ball State too this year in the MAC to repeat. Phil, I don't know if you did a little research on the MAC, but
I did zero research on the MAC. I don't know shit about the MAC.
Well, that's all right. That's
why you guys are here.
That's why we're here. And guess what?
Sure, baby.
You'll start paying attention like by week 8 once those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night MACtion games start.
It's the only thing on TV. I'll be tuning in.
Right. I mean, are there any other group of 5 schools that you guys are kind of looking at? I mean, look, I think for me, I'll give you my top 5 kind of group of 5 teams that I think could. Actually, I would say only one of these teams could probably make a run to the playoffs, which is Cincinnati. They're kind of top of my list. They return a lot of folks. We saw they went toe-to-toe with Georgia last year in the bowl game. They've been there for a while. Desmond Ritter's a stud. The only thing with them is they got a tough schedule. They really do. They go to Indiana, to Notre Dame, and back-to-back weeks. I think like week 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, which is, I mean, even if they split one of those, I mean, I got to think realistically for their playoff chances, they got to sweep that. I mean, they're going to have to go undefeated. And so outside of that, I mean, UCF. I
was going to say my hometown boys, the UCF Knights.
And here's the thing. I think Gus Malzahn, like, he's a quirky dude, but I think he's going to really.
He's won some games. He's won some games in his career.
I think his message just won't get as worn down as maybe it was at Auburn as it will at UCF. So, like, I think it's just going to resonate more with those guys. Like, I'm realistically, could UCF beat Cincinnati twice and run the table? Maybe. If they do that, I mean, I think UCF or Cincinnati, if they would go undefeated, I think they would have a legit chance at making the playoffs this year, depending on how the other cards fall. I mean, if the Pac-12, if USC or Oregon's 9-3 or something like that, if Oklahoma falters once or twice, maybe. But
I mean, UCF's at least been there before, right? Like the past 5-6 years, it's hard to find a team that's had as much success as UCF, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah.
They've done amazing things down here, man. I know a lot of people are excited for Malzahn to be there as the head coach. Dylan Gabriel, he's not bad. He's a nice little quarterback, little lefty out of Hawaii. And what's the side note? Why is Hawaii so good at quarterbacking?
Okay.
Like, I don't understand that, but just everyone who comes
Mariota
out
go to the same school, same high school?
Yeah, I think so. Like, why are they so good? I don't understand that.
It's like the
How to
island of
sling it.
Samoa. When they send like guys to the NFL, like they're just a freak.
Right.
It's like, I mean, hey, who was
Got Manti Te'o seeing ghosts out here.
yeah. Who did like Louisiana Lafayette was really good. They Iowa State. They upset Iowa State last year opening week. And then I just don't think whatever you think, I think Iowa State was a little bit overrated last year. I mean, you get BTU like Louisiana Lafayette first week, which not taking anything away from Louisiana Lafayette. They're really good. I mean, they're number 3 in my group of 5 teams to watch. But I think it speaks more to like Iowa State and how much they were praised last year and their top 10 team this year. Like, I don't know. But, kind of round out my top 5 of group 5 teams to watch. The Ball State Cardinals coming in number 4. They return everybody. I mean, Drew Plitt might, he's going to shatter some records this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see 4,500 yards. I mean,
like single season or career records?
Both. So I think, don't quote me, but I think he's got a chance to break Ball State's career passing yards. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think he's good. And then you can't forget about Coast Carolina. I mean, they had a freshman quarterback last year. Seeing what they did, and again, was it more of the Cinderella story, catching people by surprise, like maybe? But I mean, look, they're returning a lot of people. I like their coach, like their quarterback. They play hard. So yeah, those are kind of my team: Cincinnati, UCF, Louisiana Lafayette, Ball State, and Coastal.
Great list. That's my exact list. That's so weird.
Was it really?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
No, I'm not even going to add to it. I'll put UCF 1 though, just because they're 20 minutes down the road for me.
I mean, here's the thing. I think if we're looking at who could actually make some noise, I think UCF has a legit shot at being over Cincinnati, just because Cincinnati's got a tougher schedule. I mean, when you go 2 Notre Dame and 2 IU, which IU isn't the IU of tradition, so
right.
those are going to be tough games. But yeah, I mean, so we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. We're kind of going off, but I mean, let's break down the Big Ten a little bit more. Obviously, we all rode with Ohio State. Besides my man Phil, there he's touching for the Hoosiers, pulling for the Hoosiers, and I appreciate it. But I think that was more of a sleeper pick. Does your heart really say the Hoosiers, or you're like?
No, I just hate Ohio State.
I mean,
plus I didn't want to be the same. Like, we all said Oklahoma, so you got to mix it up somewhere, right?
Yep, I get it. Like, and that's the thing. I mean, realistically, like, who challenges Ohio State this year in the Big Ten?
The only thing I think that could help other teams is like the Ohio State quarterbacks, who are just phenomenal no matter who it is. And it's been that way for 20 years. Now, they all suck in the NFL, but they're really good in college. But they honestly have like a problem. Like CJ Stroud, has he been named the starter, or is everyone just assuming?
Yeah, CJ Stroud's a starter.
Yep. All right. Him, and then I guess it's Jack Miller's the other guy. And there's a third one too. I forget his name. But like, they legitimately don't have like the guy who they know is like the guy going in.
I don't know. I think they've got the guy. He's just a freshman and enrolled a month ago.
Right.
Quinn Ewers, like, I mean, you're looking at recruiting numbers. He's like your can't miss prospect since Andrew Luck. But again, he's been there for 3 weeks, a month. Like, that's a lot. That offense is complicated. It's tough to get down. I think CJ Stroud,
Master Teague.
I mean, CJ Stroud's going to be good enough to get them through the first, we'll say 4 or 5 weeks, I think.
Thing is, though, is they just got dudes all around the field. They got 5 stars, no matter what.
The receiving court is unbelievable this year. So,
right.
I mean, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Chris Olave is.
He would have been.
I don't want to spoil it, but like, he's my sleeper to win the Heisman. I'm not going to rank him in the top 3, but like, I feel like every year somebody comes out of nowhere to at least, get that trip to New York. Like, he's my guy. I mean, I think in 7 games last year, he put up like 9 touchdowns and 900 yards receiving or something like that. Like, you add 5 more games to that. Well, I mean, if they make the playoffs, 6-7 more games, like, he could easily get. I don't know what Devontae Devontae Smith's numbers were last year when he won the Heisman, but I think he had like 1,800 receiving yards and whoever
Incredible.
23 touchdowns. I don't know how many touchdowns.
They were all in the first half.
But
yeah, playoff game.
When you look at yardage, like I think Chris Olave could have that. Like, so even they just need someone to get him the ball. Like, they're so skilled across the board that I don't. Their quarterback situation, I don't think it's going to be that bad.
Well, I think the biggest difference between if any team going to the Final Four or whatever is it's the line play. Like, there'll be like Purdue, they could have a guy that's really good on the line, like on defense with George Karlaftis, but they don't have the depth that Ohio State or Alabama has. They got 3 guys at each position that could probably start at most.
Right.
Power 5.
The bench guys at Ohio State and Alabama would be like all conference at 90% of other schools. So it's just crazy. It's hard to compete with.
Well, when you look at like what's been their fault over the last like several years that they've actually competed with Ohio State. It's like by the third, fourth quarter, like they wear down IU's 1-2s and they just run away with it. Like they're just so much deeper and talented across the board. Now, I think IU's been able to close the gap, and a lot of schools in the Big Ten have been able to close that gap. But Ohio State is still Ohio State. Like, just is what it is. But I mean, does Penn State bounce back this year? Like, here's my two question marks: Penn State, Michigan. I think Jim Harbaugh cleaned house a little bit this year. I think his message just gets a little tiresome. And I think so just getting some new guys in there on his coaching staff just revamps things a little bit. And I mean, those guys, those players know what's up. Like if they don't win at least probably 9 or 10 games this year, like he's gone. Like, I think it is what it is. And that's just, they know that he feels it. Like he doesn't want to leave. And so do they step up? Like, I think yesterday or something, he announced McNamara was going to be his guy, which I think he's good. But, them or Penn State, like, do they step up this year and can they actually compete, get back to what they were Michigan traditionally and Penn State from, 3-4 years ago?
Right. Yeah. I mean, as a Michigan fan, like I'll say this and mean it. Michigan's probably the most overrated program in the country almost every single year, just because the expectations are so high, because the fan base is insane and they expect to win and be competing every single year, but it hasn't been like that in a while. Yeah. And like, I don't know, man, Michigan fans just live in the past. Because the past was awesome. The 90s were awesome.
It's like IU basketball a little bit.
Exactly. It's the same exact thing. Like, I mean, haven't won since 97. Haven't beat Ohio State since Nam. Like, it's a tough situation for Michigan. And like, the biggest issue to me has been quarterback play in the whole Jim Harbaugh era. Yeah. Quarterback has been like the number one issue, which makes no sense because Jim Harbaugh was a quarterback and you would think he'd be able to recruit one, raise him through the program as a freshman, bring him up, teach him all he needs to know, and then go make him amazing. And they just have quarterback turnover. Joe Milton last year made me want to vomit. I mean, that was some of the worst shit I've ever seen in my life. And even coming in this year, it's like Cade McNamara took over last year late, even though the season was already lost, but he played decent. But he's not going to set records. He's not going to impress you, but he's a consistent guy. You've got J.J. McCarthy, like the 5-star recruit freshman.
JJ's good.
Will he get his shot this year? It's hard to say. But if Cade struggles, like, why not roll the dice, see what happens?
Oh, I think you have to. If you're Harbaugh, like, if he might be out this year. Like, if McNamara gets off to, a poor start the first handful of games, you got to make the switch, right?
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing, too, they have a third guy, Alan Bowman, who transferred from Texas Tech, 3-year starter at Tech. And it's like, so there's.
Let me tell you, I bet one too many times on Texas Tech the last few years. I don't think Alan Bowman's the guy.
Probably not. But he's still there.
Alan,
right?
Alan, if you're listening, nothing against you. I'm
sure
you are. I'm sure you're a stud.
Right. So it just, but the whole point of that is that, again, we still don't know who the quarterback is. And it's like this every single freaking year. And it's very frustrating.
Harbaugh's going to hit on one of these guys, right? Like, he has to. He's got, like, you'd think.
You would
think one of these guys will pan out. But it's better happen this year.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, in Penn State, you mentioned them. Freaking Sean Clifford starting for, the 9th year? That guy's been there for a decade.
He's like Aaron Kraft.
God, he's been there.
He's like Aaron Kraft with basketball.
Crazy. Get someone new.
Look at the whole Big Ten, though. Like, tons of quarterbacks that are like 5th year, 6th year players. You got Tanner Morgan at Minnesota, been there forever.
Adrian Martinez, Nebraska, he's back again.
Adrian Martinez. It's like this guy's gonna be like driving school buses here pretty soon. But anyways, just kind of touch on your quarterback question there. Pretty much the same thing with Purdue. Every year we don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be game one.
He had to throw in Purdue.
What's that?
He had to throw in Purdue.
Oh, well, of course. It's who I know most about. But anyways, I mean, Jeff Brom, quarterback whisperer. Yeah, they put up good numbers and stuff. It's mainly been our defensive problem. But it's just like every year, it can even be game to game. We don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. And I feel like it has to kind of be something with the team is like, what are we doing? It's just hard to have any consistency throughout the season. But I'm also going to touch on IU as well. I don't think they're going to have a good year this year. And the reason is I think we are, and this is not just because I'm a Purdue fan and I'm being biased to them or anything. Their wins last year, they didn't have one win against a team that had a winning record last year. And
in the Big Ten, pretty much. Like, here's the thing. That's so skewed, though. Like, you get Penn State early, first game, you beat them, and that just, like, derails their season. Like, I think – I'm not knocking Penn State. I don't think they were. Like, they just gave up after that. They lost to IU, and I think just, like, a COVID year, like, this is it's all messed up. They just gave up.
Yeah, they also look at a lot of guys that opted out of playing.
You got to look at Wisconsin. Like, they beat Wisconsin when Wisconsin was, like, what, 3-4 or something like that. Like,
they had a bunch of COVID outbreak and everything.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like not too quick to jump on their bandwagon.
IU didn't play Wisconsin with the COVID outbreak, though. Those guys were back, but they had lost those games. Like, they lost 3 in a row or whatever.
Graham Mertz was not the same quarterback before he went out.
Yeah. I'll agree there. I mean, Graham Mertz wasn't the same, but I will say
Michael Penix has to stay healthy for a full season.
That's key. No, that's key to IU right there is Penix. Like, he hasn't been able to stay healthy the whole year. But you get, I mean, I'm going to say this a lofty goal. Like, I think IU's probably got a top 15 defense in the country. Now, their interception rate last year was ungodly. Like, they're not going to be able to keep up, those numbers. But I mean, as long as you can win the turnover margin, which is a big, like, Tom Allen calling card, which he's done everywhere he's gone. I mean, I expect that defense to be a top 15 defense in the country. And so then you just need consistent quarterback play. I mean, whether it's Michael Penix or not, Penix, your ceiling's higher with Penix. But I think they've got some guys waiting in the wing at quarterback. If Penix goes down, like we saw last year with Jack Tuttle, I mean, he was a highly sought after recruit. I mean, came in, filled out well. Yeah, Utah. And I mean, even you look at the bowl game, like he separated his shoulder like in the first quarter and played through it. Like, he couldn't put up numbers against Ole Miss, but it's like, dude also played a separated shoulder. I mean, not what you want, but look, he controls the game. And I just think last year was such like a question mark too, with how much you're able to prepare during the week. Like, what position players were out because of contact tracing. Like, I don't know. So I'm cautiously optimistic on my Hoosiers. I would say 8 to 9 wins, hopefully. But we'll see. We'll see. So, anything else in the Big Ten? Anybody else like relevant?
I think the sleeper every year, which I don't think they're going to be as good this year. I mean, they freaking won the Big Ten West last year is in Northwestern. I mean, they're just all their defense.
Didn't they lose a lot of guys though?
They lost a lot.
They had 2 defensive players that are drafted in the first round, which Northwestern, when's that ever happened?
Right, yeah, that's crazy.
But I mean, I'll never knock them out just because it seems like every year it'll be.
Pat Fitzgerald is a stud. Like,
second half of the year, they always just come up with huge wins after huge wins. I mean, I think obviously Iowa had a tough start last year, but you look how they finished the season and they pretty much like dominated like their last like 5 games, 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Northwestern lost a bunch, but they got Hunter Johnson, I think, is who they named their starting quarterback, which I think is in Indiana. He's a Hoosier, not a transfer, but he's from like Columbus or something, maybe. I don't know.
Didn't he go to Clemson?
Yep,
Out of high school.
Transfer, yeah. So, I mean, he's obviously had the talent coming out. Like, who knows? Obviously Peyton Ramsey took things and ran with it last year as a grad transfer for them. But, I mean, we'll see. Like, again, like Phil said, they just lost a lot. Like, I don't know what to expect. I think it's Wisconsin's like side to lose pretty much. But, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
You know who's not going to challenge? Nebraska.
Okay.
Just want to.
Okay. Let's get into this. Who are like your top 3 coaches in the Big Ten on the hot seat? Like, I got to go with Harbaugh, Scott Frost, and Jeff Brom. Like, it's got to be. Yeah, I mean, anybody else is on the hot seat outside of those
the
3?
top 2 are for sure. Everyone else, maybe James Franklin. Maybe. I mean, he hasn't done a ton at Penn State, but
Brom's on the hot seat, but he also has however many more years, and he's the 3rd highest paid coach in the conference. Like, that buyout's just not realistic for Purdue. So,
hey, nobody thought Archie Miller's buyout was realistically either. You got some donors that'll step up. And Bob Rohrman, is it Purdue just give like
I think
$50?
People still like Brom. I mean, the fans, the stands are still packed every game. I don't know if people are just excited about football. I mean, they've been exciting. They put up like 35 points a game last year. It's more the defensive side of the ball that they've had troubles finding. This year, they have another new defensive coordinator for the 3rd straight year.
I was going to say they're trade.
And if you look at their roster, they have 8 co-defensive coordinators. So if we have a defensive coordinator for every position, we should be unstoppable on defense.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't go that far. But, you talked about, like, the fans are still interested and they're still coming out to games. Like, here's the thing. Or at least early, most fans are probably going to fill the stands this year. Like, unless COVID and school start saying, hey, 50% capacity or something like that. But
right.
I know nobody wants to do that. Like, everybody's put out their 100% capacity. They've sold record amount of season tickets, like all this. Like,
right.
I mean, people are craving.
People are going to be at every game no matter what.
Yeah. So, like, even if, Purdue.
Until they can be.
Yeah. Until they're unless they roll out a 2-10 season, I think Purdue fans are still going to show up. Like, I think 6-6 or 5-7 is probably more realistic for Purdue. But, and as long as they make a bowl game, Brom's still there.
Yeah. And generally if we make a bowl game, we're really competitive usually in those other games.
Yeah.
And I guess expectations for that, people are usually pretty happy with that. Whereas Michigan, it's not the case.
I hate football. It's so hard to watch, man. Every single year, go beat up on a directional Michigan team every year. It's Western this year. Then maybe you'll come away with one non-conference when they got Washington game 2, which is actually a pretty tough game.
It's going to be a test for them.
And then they play all the West teams and beat the hell out of them because the Big Ten West is terrible. And then they get smacked by Michigan State. They get smacked by Penn State. They get smacked by Ohio State. And the whole season's over and it's pointless.
I'll be honest. It's hard to I just don't see Michigan State beating them this year.
Last year.
Okay. I'll be honest. Yeah.
3 touchdown dogs.
Yeah, trust me. I know Michigan State was bad.
Crazy. That made no sense.
Rocky Lombardi or whatever. Dude is not good.
Where did that come from?
But again, I think Michigan suffered a lot like Penn State did last year. I think they just kind of gave up. And it was such an easy excuse here last year just to be like, you know what?
Right.
Cash it in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think especially for the Michigan State game, I got a feeling Michigan they're gonna roll with it this year. I
hope they step up.
We'll see. I just think there's too much talent across their board compared to Michigan State, but it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. I get it. So, man, I don't know.
Kind of getting out of the Big Ten here real quick. We didn't even touch on them in the kind of the national. We didn't even talk about Notre Dame.
Notre Dame sucks.
It's a question mark. I think they're number 9 preseason. They got a question.
Jack Cohn from.
Yep, I know. I was gonna say
the quarterback.
He's a game manager. I don't think he's gonna take them over the top. Here's the thing. I think it's gonna be. I don't know, 9-3, 8-4.
We say that, but it seems like they're right on the cusp of the Final Four every year.
Every year, but what's their? Let me see what their ACC schedule's like this year. They probably don't have to play Clemson unless they get to the ACC championship. So let's take a look at Florida State. You got Mackenzie Milton, possibly. Is he starting at Florida State?
Yeah, baby. I think so.
I mean,
I'm 100% sure, but
I am pulling for that, dude. Mackenzie Milton, Brock, if you don't remember, he was at UCF and like just had that.
How could I forget?
you want to talk about a big man on campus?
How could I forget?
Ran UCF. He was a god.
I lived down in Florida while he was there.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying, like, who? I mean,
also from Hawaii, by the way.
He hasn't played the last 2 years. I mean, like, who knows what he's still got in the tank, but like, could he take Florida State, maybe to the next level, at least 6 wins, 7 wins? Like, maybe. I mean, that's tough for them going down there. First game of the year. They play it Sunday night, so probably a primetime slot too. It's like, fans are going to show up. Obviously, it's going to be a tough atmosphere. No guarantee. I mean, Notre Dame will probably be 10-point favorite, but still. You got Toledo, which, everybody's high on Toledo in the MAC. Like, they go to Wisconsin. They've got Cincinnati. They've got USC, but they do have USC, North Carolina at home. I mean, those are realistically, USC, North Carolina are probably their toughest games at home. And then obviously that one at Wisconsin. So I don't know. I think those are all three like easy to lose.
Well, I hope so, because I hate Notre Dame.
And then obviously Purdue goes to South Bend. So
I do.
That'll probably be, I'll say 30-14.
Go to that game.
I am not going to go to that game. Fun fact, I will actually be down in Bloomington that day.
You should
the
go.
IU versus Cincinnati game.
Wow.
Do a little tailgate action. The wife's family, they're IU fans. So I don't think I'm actually going to go in. Just hang out at the bars.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. KOK will welcome you with open arms. So, well, what's next on the list, boys? I mean, we got
Heisman
favorites.
Yeah, what's our what are you guys looking at for Heisman favorites? Phil, you want to start us off? Who you got? Who you circling?
Yeah, I'll start us off here. Tying back to my conference pick, I got Sam Howell taking it home, baby. I don't know why.
I hinted at it.
I don't know why. I love that guy. I watched like 2 North Carolina games last year during a COVID season when nothing made any sense. And I just think he's great. He can run, he can throw, he just looks good out there, good arm, just has the poise, the swag, all that good stuff. There's no reason, no other backing behind it other than I liked what I saw when I watched him play twice.
You know exactly who he reminds me of.
Who's that?
My man Mitch, baby.
Oh, God.
Buckets?
Did you see Mitch Trubisky just light up the Bears yesterday?
Revenge game.
Or not yesterday, Saturday.
Nagy's the problem, man.
So
I'm saying it.
Trubisky's not terrible. I mean, he beat the Lions last year early on, week 2 or week 3 or whatever. But anyway, fellow North Carolina guy. Makes a lot of sense. I like Hal. So he's my number 1 guy. Number 2, we're going to stay in the ACC and give me DJ, You Are Very Ugly from Clemson.
that would be Uwe Younglele.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try to say that.
Brock left him off his list, and we didn't have to pronounce his name.
Right, exactly, right. Keep it easy. But yeah, when he stepped in for Trevor Lawrence last year, I liked what I saw from there. And then obviously Clemson, similar to Ohio State in the Big Ten, Clemson just has all the recruits they could ever want. ACC weak as hell overall as a conference. I think he's going to run through people. Obviously, pretty big test against Georgia week 1. But if he can come out on top there, that'll be a real nice notch in the belt on his way to the Heisman finalist presentation. And then number 3, just because there's no defense whatsoever being played, give me Spencer Rattler out of Oklahoma at number 3.
Some good
Gower?
picks. So the guy I had taken home is DJ. You Are Very Ugly. I mean, it only took 2 games for me to know that he's an absolute stud last year in his 2 starts. First ever start as a true freshman. Dude just goes for 439 yards, 2 touchdowns passing, 1 rushing, against a Final Four team at their home field. So if he can do that, first game ever as a true freshman, I mean, you get a whole offseason, an actual true offseason without COVID. Going into this season, I think he's just going to be an absolute stud. Doesn't matter who he plays. Number 2, I mean, I'm just going to go with Spencer Rattler for the same reasons as Phil. It just seems like every year Oklahoma has a quarterback, whether it's Baker Mayfield. I mean, Jalen Hurts isn't true quarterback, and he can just put up numbers in that offense. And then number 3, I'm just going to keep my bias here. I'm just going to go with my boy David Bell. Sleeper pick.
I'm fine with the sleeper pick.
I
would say your sleeper can't be number 3 on your board, but
that's if Purdue wins at least 10 games this year. I mean, he's not going to win, but just if you look at his stats, he's an absolute stud. His freshman year, he had over 1,000 yards receiving, another one rushing, and then in 6 games last year, he had 625 receiving yards with 8 tutties. With Purdue's offensive line and their quarterbacks, which nobody ever talks about being very good, if he can do that with them, I mean, I think he's just going to be a stud further on down the road, and I think he's just going to be another stud this year as well. Not going to win, but just want people to know his name.
David Bell's a stud. I will say that. You should know his name. He is a freak. Phil, do you have like a sleeper pick, or you're like, hey, nobody's talking about him that much? I mean, Sam Howell, people know about him now. He kind of
he's not a secret anymore.
But if you don't have, that's fine.
I mean, nothing really ringing a bell unless my Big Ten champion Indiana Hoosiers win the Big Ten.
Oh, then you're Mike Penix.
Big P.
Could be old Ty Freifogel.
Old Freifogel. I don't know, man. We got Freifogel was a stud. Like DJ Matthews is a transfer from Texas or Florida State. I think he's gonna really spring on the scene too for the wide receiver position. So, well, I'm glad we all 3 have different Heisman picks. Gower, you went with DJ Uiagalelei. Phil, you went with old Sam Howell, and I got to go with Spencer Rattler. Like you said, Brock, all Oklahoma does, and Lincoln Riley did, like number 1 picks in the draft and Heisman Trophy winners. Like that's what they do. They breed them. And so I got to go with Spencer Rattler. And then number 2 was DJ. And then my number 3 was actually Keaton Slovis. I think he's just going to be lighting it up out there out west. And I mean, I'm talking, he's probably throwing for 35, 40 touchdowns and 4,500 yards. So, I mean, who knows what happens in a couple games. And if they can, again, if they can go, 11-1 or something like that and make the playoffs, like obviously then he's got a chance probably. So, my sleeper pick was probably Chris Olave from Ohio State, which
I would go back-to-back receivers though. That's definitely never happened, right?
It's never happened, but I think we've got a blueprint now for like what you need as a receiver. And again, like we'll go right into this. Like my Big Ten player of the year is Chris Olave. I mean, I fully expect probably 1,400 yards minimum as long as he stays healthy. I mean, I don't think 18 to 22 touchdowns is out of the realm. Obviously, look, the quarterback play is going to be a big question mark just because we've never seen these guys play, but I know what Chris Olave can do, and just give him the ball, like he'll make things happen. So, yeah, I mean, I think Chris Olave, Michael Penix, and David Bell were kind of my top 3 Big Ten Player of the Year candidates this year. So,
the thing with Olave too is like he put up absolutely ridiculous numbers last year. You got a guy on the other side of the field, Garrett Wilson.
I know.
Like he'd be the number 1 wide receiver on almost any other team in the nation as well.
Their receiving core is so good, so good. But Gower, who you got? I'm guessing you're going with David Bell for the Big Ten Player of the Year.
Sure am.
Sure, you don't want to go with Samson James, man? He just transferred.
Oh, it's not even going to start over my boy Xander Horvath.
Right. I like it. Look, he's a bruiser.
No, I just don't know. I don't really. Graham Mertz, in his first game last year ever, put up 6 touchdowns or something like that. Obviously after COVID, he didn't really have the same numbers as what he started out with, but just kind of like I said before, having a full true off season and everything. You're with all the guys for a lot of practices going into the season. I think he's going to be a stud. It's a quarterbacks league. just like the NFL. When is the last? Well, before Devontae Smith this past year, when's the last time anybody other than a quarterback won?
Mark Ingram, maybe? I don't even know.
But no, for the Big Ten, sleeper David Bell. I'd probably go Graham Mertz if I had to choose somebody. Player of the year.
Phil?
Penix.
Yeah, I mean, you're riding with them to win the Big Ten, right? Like,
yeah. So I'm just all my eggs in that basket there.
Gosh, I got my new best friend here.
Yeah, I didn't even know I liked Indiana, but apparently I'm a big Hoosier guy.
Big IU guy.
I mean, ever since Antoine Randall, that's been my squad. So,
hey, well, I can get on board with you. We'll live stream some Hoosiers games and get some live reaction.
yeah. That's what gets the views in. Tell you that.
We did kind of skip over who were our playoff picks. Like, if we got to go our 4 today, like, who are we picking? Who's going to be in the college football playoff come whatever December 26th or whatever the first game is? So,
you want to go first?
I can go first. I got Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, and Oklahoma.
Yeah,
Good.
like, I mean,
go with the Hoosiers.
What are you gonna change there, right? Like, it's a pretty tough situation, and it's, to me, this is why, like, I'm a bigger pro fan than I am college. Like, I'll just be straight up with you guys on that. But it gets so boring seeing the same teams every year. Though I say that, and none of us has said a thing about Alabama yet. This whole podcast.
Oh, Brock picked Alabama, right?
Picked Alabama to win the SEC.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Well, here's the thing. When we get into that, like, that's a big reason why we went with the 12-team playoff expansion. So, obviously, that's not happening this year, but we got 2 years to wait for that. I mean, again, I don't want to say we're going to more of an NFL model. Like, I think everybody's calling for, expand the playoff to a 6-team or an 8-team playoff. And I think the guys in that room were like, look, people are just going to keep clamoring for like more teams. And they were just like, let's just jump to 12, get people off our back right now. It gives everybody a chance. Like, you go in week 1, like, even as a group of 5 team, like, I've got a chance. Like, the way the system's set up now, like, not every team can go into, preseason and into spring ball and thinking like, yeah, I've got a chance to make the playoff. Like, no, you don't.
Right.
So, I mean, Phil, I get you're more of an NFL guy. You're obviously a Michigan fan, follow the Big Ten, but I hope with the expansion of the 12-team playoff, like, you're going to fall in love with the college game.
Sure.
So doing this podcast, you're just going to I'm all about it now.
It changed everything for me. Doing this podcast every week. Life-changing stuff is what we're whipping out for the people.
Well, I'm trying to think too, like, your only differences than me for conference champions. I think you had Oregon and you had Indiana.
Right.
So are you taking Oregon and IU to the college football playoff? Like, you got to take one of them, right? Or are you going to go 2 out of the SEC?
I mean, probably Bama and Georgia, just the way that people like to vote. Clemson's a lock. And then, I mean, I know I picked Indy, but Ohio State's Ohio State. If Indiana beats Ohio State, Indiana.
Oh, no, you picked North Carolina to win, didn't you? You picked UNC.
Yeah, I did.
So, yeah, you got to break down.
I'm just mixing everything up. Now I'm hedging.
Yep, now you're like, all right.
Covering all my bases here.
This guy's
Do you want to be real, or do you want me to say something that's controversial so we get listens and views?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like legit. Like, I mean, UNC, I think they have a good chance. Like, they could run the table. Like, they could go an 11-1. Like, if they go 11-1 with a win over Clemson along the way.
Clemson and Notre Dame on the schedule.
Yeah, and I think
that's valid. That's a good thing. And if Hal does his thing, sure. So, yeah, give me UNC.
Yeah, the thing is, too, you mentioned, like, people want to see different teams. If a USC is 11-1, they got to be in.
Right.
Okay, here's what it gets down to. Let's say we've got, like, we'll just go with chalk. Ohio State, Ohio State, Alabama, Oklahoma, and then you've got an 11-1 USC and 11-1 like North Carolina, both conference champs. Who do you take there?
North Carolina, because that means they beat Clemson. Whereas who did USC beat?
USC's got the name though. Like,
I was going to say USC's
got the fan base. They got the fan base. Going to make more money, which
any team's going to make money in the Final Four. Like,
I hate to say, I mean, I think that more people will be interested with USC, which I hate to say, but I think that's part of their voting in a way.
It's just the good old boys club. They're like, all right, well, who do you guys? I mean, just like look at last year, like Ohio State played 6 games or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have to play all the games of the Big Ten, and people were just they're going to put in who they want to put in at the end of the day.
Correct.
It is what it is. But
it's like if Michigan's 11-1, and I mean they got to be.
I guarantee it'd be Michigan over anyone with the same record. Guaranteed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it comes down to your brand. I think right now the way it is, which is unfortunate, but oh well. So, well, we'll round this thing out here with the end of the show. We've got one Big Ten game this week. We've got huge game. Brett Bielema
kind of does have some storylines though.
Brett Bielema he's back in the Big Ten. He used to run the West at Wisconsin. He's an Illinois guy. He's from Illinois. I think that game's at Illinois, right, this week? Let me write it down. I think it's Nebraska goes to Illinois. So, yeah, we got Nebraska versus Illinois. Like, obviously, Scott Frost is like, they got to win.
This is Scott Frost's career at Nebraska.
Did you hear Nebraska's under investigation, too?
Yeah, all those. That's again like
all the suckage that they've had. Now
here's the only thing that does for Nebraska is it gives them an out. Like if they want to fire Scott Frost for cause, now they probably have some cause and they don't have to pay whatever his buyout is.
Golden boy though.
Right. Well, you know what's super awesome?
Hasn't worked out, man.
Nebraska hired Trev Albert, former Nebraska player, who I believe played with Scott Frost. It's like, how awkward would that be? They bring in one of your friends to be your new boss, and then he fires your ass. Like, that's got to be super weird, right? But I don't see Scott Frost, by the way, legend at UCF. I don't know why I brought up UCF so much. Apparently, I'm a big UCF fan. In addition to my Indiana fandom, Scott Frost was beloved down here. They love Scott Frost, and I'm actually super surprised he's done so poorly at Nebraska. But that being said, touching back to the actual game, Illini, baby, all day. I don't even know what the spread is, but they're going to cover it, and they're going to win it.
I think Illinois is plus 6.5 right now.
Straight win and cover.
And cover.
Yeah, which would happen because
that's ballsy. That is, I will say that's ballsy, but that's what we're out here we're swinging for the fences on this podcast. So,
what you, baby?
I mean, I'm probably rolling with the Illini as well. I mean, it's the battle of like the 30-year-old quarterbacks. We get Brandon Peters. It's like in his 6th year as well.
Crazy.
I don't know. I think you have a huge advantage coming after a COVID year. Your first game is a home game, packed house. Everybody's gonna be excited. I just think Illinois with Brett Bielema gonna have players excited. It's always a big thing when you have a new coach. Everybody's kind of excited for that first game. So I'm just gonna roll with Illinois. It seems like they always come up with one random big win too, even though this isn't like a huge game. But I think they're tougher than what people think they are for the most part.
No, I think they've got their running game last year was really good. Obviously, Brett Bielema runs the ball. They got their top returning rusher back. So,
and
they got I think NFL caliber offensive lineman too.
Nebraska lost their like top playmaker from last year, Wan'Dale Robinson as well. He just transferred too.
I don't know. I mean, I'll say Nebraska across the board, I think they probably have more talent. But for some reason, like it just has not been able to come together, like since Scott Frost has been there. And I think there's just a home game for Illinois coming off a COVID year. Fans are going to be there excited. Like, what's Brett Bielema going to do? I got a barn burner here. I'll go Illinois 31, Nebraska 28. So I don't know. We're all three with Illinois. I hope we're not all wrong. But
I think the only thing that would change that is like Nebraska literally has every defensive player returning this year, I believe.
And
not that they were good last year.
I think Adrian Martinez is good too. Like it's not that he's not good. It's just again like he's just erratic. Like for some reason, it just has not been able to come together.
he could look really good one throw and then just look terrible.
Yeah, but he's got. I don't know what Illinois got on the defensive side of the ball, what they're expecting. So maybe that gives them a chance. And again, you get a couple turnovers, but I don't know. There's a home field advantage alive and well in the Big Ten down there in Champaign. So we'll see what happens. We're all in Illinois. This wraps up our first podcast of the Shotgun Formation. So
should we talk about like some things to expect in future shows?
Yeah, I think we kind of
Brock, tell us
what we're expecting, but I think we kind of got into that of like what we're gonna do. But Brock, do you have a surprise for us? Surprises are nice.
No.
I thought I was gonna get a surprise last night when I crawled into bed, but my wife just rolled over. So
no, we talked about at the start of the show. We want this to be fun. This was more of a serious podcast. I think moving forward, we'll be serious, but we also want to bring in some fun like gimmicks and everything. We got our boy Jim Joyner. We're gonna do a segment called Hitting the Gym. Coming in with a random question. We won't know what it is. It's kind of off the top.
And it can be anything, right? It doesn't have to be like college football. It can be like whatever.
It can be anything. It'll probably be about Kansas high school sports.
We are big Kansas high KHSAA or whatever they are out there.
But anyways, we wanted this to kind of be raw conversation, not feel scripted or anything. So kind of want to bring in that. We got some other ideas as well, like as well as some of the others that we want to talk about, like top 5 type things.
The 6-pack, I believe, is what we called it.
6-pack. Going with the beer theme. I think like one of us, maybe 2 of us will get together and propose a random 6-pack question to one of the other guys. So yeah, it'll be fun.
We'll do some things.
Raw conversation, raw jokes. It is what it is. Like
we're going raw.
We're back.
Raw dogs.
Ball's back.
Dogs.
Yes.
Raw Gower. Dog.
Very green. Shout out to you. What's his first name?
Nelson Knappe.
Nelson Knappe.
Bishop Lures want to know.
So, all right. Well, boys, it's been a doozy. Here's to week 0. And we'll see y'all next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And go Big Ten, baby.